Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Placement Talk series. So today we have Sejal with us. She is a mechanical student placed at Collins as an intern for 6 months starting January. So hi Sejal, how are you?
Akash, I'm good. Thank you for inviting me over on your channel.
It's all my pleasure. So coming to your profile background, first of all, why did you choose mechanical engineering? Like, uh, if you joined VIT, you could have easily gotten into CSE or IT fields, which have a better placement stats compared to mechanical in VIT. So, what was your motive for choosing just mechanical?
Wow, this is such an interview question that I got asked. But one of the reasons I took mechanical is because I'm very interested in space sciences and in product development. It's always been that, and I think I was 12 when I decided I want to, you know, be in aerospace engineering. So glad to say that I'm kind of almost there, but I think that was one of the reasons. And when I was 8 and I sat in the plane for the first time, I was really, fascinated by how a metal tube can actually float up in the air. And I think since then on, I just got my hands on any books I could read. So like reading a lot about astronomy and Stephen Hawking and watching their lectures and trying to understand how space works. I think that's one of the reasons I took mechanical, and I just stuck with it. And I did have computer science in 11th and 12th, but I was never too keen on it. I don't know. I just didn't picture myself as someone doing that for a long time. So yeah, that's why I took mechanical.
Okay, great. So, coming to your mechanical journey at VIT. So, can you please give us a brief description about your background, where all you have worked?
Yeah, definitely. So I think started in 2018. I'm from the 2018 batch, and it was quite exciting. I think college is a new phase for everyone, so I was equally excited as well. And I was very clear on the fact that I wanted to explore as much as I could, because 11th 12th में usually इतना होता नहीं है. Especially if you're preparing for ITJ, you probably do not have that much of a thing of exploring and doing things, and that was one of the things I wanted to do when I came to college. So in my first year, I'll just talk about the internships as a whole. So after my first year, I interned at Air India, and after my second year, I interned at Shrishti, and that's when the pandemic hit. So a lot of these training programs and internships were actually offered online, and I got a little bit more involved with like my research projects and whatever other interests I wanted to pursue. So I interned at after Shrishti, I interned at Star Labs, that's space technology and aeronautical rocketry, and I did a couple of projects with SGAC, and worked with SEDS and a few internships. Wow, I'm forgetting some, but very recently, I interned at IIT Kharagpur as a research assistant, and specifically focused in additive manufacturing. So it was a lot about developing new machinery for additive manufacturing and trying to get a review of the materials used and what more can essentially be done. Currently, I'm interning at Dirium Labs, which is a Mexican startup, working as a design optimization engineer. And their mission of their product, which is the rover, is actually scheduled for 2022. So I'm quite excited, to be actually working towards a space mission. And I mean, these are the ones that I can remember, but there were a few here and there at microinsurance company where I worked as a data analyst. So I told you before, I was very keen on exploring different roles in different industries. So I did that as well. And yeah, I think that's been more or less about it. And one of the research internship was NCKU Taiwan. That was through VIT itself. So that was again in the realm of like sustainability, lithium-ion batteries, and mainly focused on materials, which is what I really like.
Okay, great. That's a hell lot of internships that you have done. And also, you have 2 patents under your name and 2 more to come, along with 12 publications, I believe. So that's a really impressive research profile along with the work experience. So coming to the placement at VIT. So generally for mechanical, when does the placement season starts, and what are the major categories of companies that come to visit? Like in CS, the major categories being the startups and the big names. In mechanical, what is the scene like?
Okay, so very officially, mechanical placements start much after CS2 or does. So if you have I don't know, if you guys start in June, we probably start in September. Is what I would give, because I remember very vividly. And one of the few companies that come in is actually Amazon and Flipkart, and they come for logistics and operations role. So if you're into like supply chain management, logistics, operations, and like most people, if you're planning to do an MBA after mechanical, those are the companies you go for, because they're huge brand names, they pay really well. Core salaries aren't that great anyway, so they pay really well. They offer you a huge brand name, and they're very good for their logistics, supply chain, and operations roles. And a lot of core companies as well come for just operations role. So like we had Hero coming in, they came for an operations and sales role. And we had Myntra as well, so that was for a data analyst role. And I think we had Emami, that was one of the few, first dream core companies to come in, and that was also for operations and logistics. Okay. So a lot of the companies that come in mechanical are mainly for logistics and operations and supply chain, from what I have seen. And others would maybe give you an option. But in general, if you're applying for a core role, it would be graduate engineer training, and then you can be placed in any domain. So there's usually not a very fixed role that they come up with that, this exact thing is what you work on. So it's usually broad. You can be R&D, so it can be design analysis, or it can be manufacturing, or it can be operations and logistics, supply chain. So that's how it diversifies.
Okay, so the major companies are the cores, and along with that, supply chain and logistics management companies.
Yeah, most companies come for supply chain, logistics management, and apart from that, obviously you have your big four and you have Deloitte and PwC and everything. If you're looking to change your profile, like go to do an MBA or completely another profile, then you opt for those.
Yeah, the management consultings.
Yeah, management consulting, yes.
Okay. So since your profile is based on aerospace and aeronautics, so are there any companies which visit just for those domains?
There is one company that comes for aerospace, from what I know, at least this year. And I think obviously core placements have been affected because of the pandemic. So there's one company, Collins Aerospace. That's the one that came for aerospace roles. Apart from that, we did have core companies coming for GET roles, but that was more automotive, obviously, because in India there's so many automotive companies.
Yeah, like right? General Electric and Tata Motors.
Yeah, there was Tata Motors, there was Maruti, there was Ford, and then there was also like Honeywell. So Honeywell is not necessarily automotive, but that came for like a core role in R&D.
So coming to your dream placement company, Collins Aerospace. Yeah. So what was the entire process of recruitment at Collins Aerospace?
Okay, so first off, there was a pre-placement talk, and I think everyone got to attend it. Like initially, it was sent only to like a few people, and mostly core companies, as a general, prefer if you have a higher GPA. So to anyone watching, and if you want a core company, try and maintain it above 8.5. That's very beneficial for you. So there was a pre-placement talk, and the same day we had a test. So that was an aptitude test. So it was normal, like verbal quants, and your vocabulary and everything. That was the first round. The second round was an interview. So I had my technical and HR on the same day, at like almost the same time. So I finished my technical and then went into HR. And then the results came 2 days after. So that's usually how the process works. And it was done in a week, actually. So first it was the test, and after like a few days, we got the interview shortlist, then technical, then HR on the same day, and the results.
Okay. So like for the CS placement companies, the interview questions are majorly around data structures and algorithms, along with a few of operating systems and DBMS. What are the questions that come up for mechanical role, especially based on aeronautics, which is your focus area?
Yeah, so initially in mechanical, what I would recommend is be very thorough with your resume and have a good grasp for 2 or 3 subjects. Most, like, depends on the company you're applying for, but like with me, the subjects that I really liked were actually manufacturing, material based, and like obviously then strength of material comes in. And as a general, my field of interest is new product development and kind of like innovation management and everything else. So in my interview, it was surprisingly all around my resume, and they asked me a lot of questions on like the conferences and the internships that I've done. So it was all based on like additive manufacturing. So I spoke a lot about additive manufacturing in my in my interview, and different kinds of techniques and how it's applicable in terms of aerospace. So additive manufacturing in aerospace is what my interview was entirely about. And obviously there were a few questions on design, so like stress, strain, and what are the different kinds, and what kind of design and analysis do you usually perform. So because the job description was about R&D and basically design and stress engineer, so a few questions were based around that. But I think mostly what they were looking for was also my interest in the long term. Like they specifically did ask me, what are your key considerations and why aerospace and why mechanical. So I usually make it a point to be very upfront about it, because a lot of people have that question as you did, like why not CS? So it would be a much, I think, faster and better paying job initially instead of over the years or gradually. So yeah, I think that was what the interview was about.
So most about it, the most important part was your resume. Like you had an impressive resume that is already based on aerospace internships. So that must have really played a major role in your decision-making process.
Yeah. I think I had the GPA considerations that they wanted, and most of my internships were exactly around aerospace, and most of my work was exactly around aerospace, and my interests are anyways, like very much in space sciences and product development. So it made it easier for me, I think, in that sense.
Okay. So what would be your advice for the upcoming folks who are planning on aerospace jobs and other general mechanical roles?
I would say if you want to go for it and if you want a core job and roles, like please stick to it and don't be disheartened. Because I definitely know that I was like, when initially you see so many companies coming in for CS and you see like one or two for mechanical, it obviously, like you do get disheartened and you think twice about your decision. But if that's what you want to do, and especially if you want to get into like the space sector, it's really booming in India right now. So I'm sure tons of more companies are, going to be coming in. Like one of the unfortunate things in our, I think, time is that we were amidst a pandemic, I think 2020, 2021 batch, or 2022 batch. So it just made it a tad bit more difficult, I'd say. But if you want to go for a core role, just go for it. Be thorough with your core subjects, one or two. And I'm not trying to, put that pressure, because we have a lot of core subjects and they're very difficult. I'll be honest about it. Mechanical core subjects are quite difficult. So be thorough with one or two subjects and be very confident about what you say in your resume, and just be honest. If you don't know something, just admit it. There were a few questions I didn't have the answer to, so I very generally said that I'm sorry, I don't know, but I'd love to know from you, and that's about it.
Okay.
One other tip for interviews is always ask them questions at the end. If given the opportunity. Always have some questions about the company. Do your research about the company, about the role. I think that will really help.
Okay, great. So this was Sejal's journey into Collins Aerospace. So there are more videos which describe specifically about her intern journey, focusing on research internships at Taiwan. And I don't remember how many aerospace companies, Air India, Star Labs, and much more. So stay tuned for that, and the link for all those videos will be provided in the description as well. So that's all for this video. Thank you and stay tuned. Thank you.